be intentional about what business you build, because the business is building a new version of you. The business also has a hammer and chisel, and it's carving a new version of us. Like it's impossible to be engaged in a business without becoming some different version of ourselves.
Hi, and welcome to the Conscious Marketer podcast. This is Richard here, and also joined by Kylie. Hi, Kylie.
Hey, everybody.
And today we have a fellow marketer and sales strategist today to introduce you to Jim Niswonger. He helps passion-driven experts promote their work through copywriting and online marketing. And by getting the right marketing in front of people, he gets them to help them to take action and to buy their products and services. But his company is Enlightened Profits. Is that right, Jim?
Yeah, that's at least the name that I have used at times. Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes I have trouble narrowing myself into a name.
It's kind of like conscious marketer. I'm sure you get a lot of people that are like, that's not even possible. So anyway, welcome, Jim, to the Conscious Marketer podcast. And we're just going to have a fun conversation and meander. Maybe you could start by sharing a little bit about your journey and how you became a copywriter and marketing strategist.
Yeah. It's been an interesting journey. So a lot of people don't know this. I spent over 20 years in manufacturing in different engineering and management positions. And there was just so much that was regimented and defined, and people were giving instructions that they wanted me to fulfill upon. And so it got to the point where I just felt like, okay, that there's something more here. And so one time when I was laid off, I decided, okay, well, I'm going to be a coach. And it took me a couple of years to burn through a lot of savings and fail at getting clients to be a coach. And so I actually took a manufacturing job at a hearing aid company. And during that time, my full intention was to figure out how to market myself as a coach so that I could quit that job. And what I found is that I liked marketing, discovering, and articulating other people's expertise more than my own. And so that was kind of the transition of how to really describe and present great expertise in a way that landed with people.
I love marketing, and I love that you kind of discovered the same thing, that you love it too. What do you feel like is different about your approach to marketing? I feel like when I see your posts, I always agree with them, and you tend to support my posts as well. So I'm just curious what you think is different about your approach.
There are kind of three things that I'm looking at in general that I feel like three important aspects of appealing to a particular client or an audience. And the first is helping people to shift into their own personal congruence, because for any product or service that we offer, the client brings something to the table. And so quite often, if we position something as just, oh, here's this expertise that's going to change everything for you, it's often neglecting the resources that people bring to the table, that vision that they're driven by, that who they're becoming through their business. And so one of the ways that I view this is kind of the difference, or just the fact that GPS requires qualified, competent drivers. And so if we treat an expertise that we're offering out there just as a GPS, a set of instructions, without realizing who it is that needs to be able to navigate that traffic and the streets, then it's not a marriage that works well together. So that's a big piece of how I look at it, is that the fact that it's any sort of transformational journey is a partnership where both parties have to bring some important things to the table.
Yeah, that's a really interesting perspective. I think so many people get caught up in what they're trying to teach or pour into somebody that they kind of forget that they're dealing with a soul or a human being here who and every one of them is different, has a different driver. So that's super interesting. I'm kind of curious, because probably you see a lot of people with blocks and obstacles to getting their workout in the market. It's like one of my favorite topics. If you've been around or listened to this podcast, you probably know that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious what you see as some of the common blocks that you see come up that prevent people from actually expanding their business and getting their work into the world to help others.
Yeah, that, to me, what it seems one of the biggest challenges typically is that it seems getting so process focused on, so that I have this solution, I've put it together, here are the things that we're going to do, I'm excited about doing these things, aren't you excited about doing them with me, without that real connection, like we were just talking about, to where people are, what they want to achieve. Because if people don't if we don't connect to where they're going, what they want, what they already desire, and just try to impose solutions, to me, that seems like the most common challenge that I see.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So curious, before we jumped on this podcast, you said something that really intrigued me, which is about your marketing or your work in the world being an offering to God, or, you know, some people on this podcast might not like that word. I use it, but divinity, spirit, universe, whatever. I feel so strongly like marketing is tied into spirituality. And I think it's hard for a lot of our listeners to put those two things together. So how do you frame that or think about that in your own business?
Mm-hmm. To me, it usually comes back to connecting to inspiration, a most inspiring moment, because the root is inspirited, or having spirit flow through us, having God flow through us. And a couple of references, and just the reason that I have this bust of Michelangelo's David is because Michelangelo is, for me, the ultimate expression of genius, defined by Arthur Schopenhauer in the 1800s. And this quote is just like, it gives me chills every time I think about it or talk about it. He said, "Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see." And so we all come to different situations seeing things that other people don't see because of what we bring with us. And so then just tying that into one of Michelangelo's quotes about carving the David statue is, he said, "Oh, carving is easy. You just go to the skin and stop." And so for all of us, we see something inside of our personal block of marble that no one else can see. And this, to me, is the process of human evolution, is that as we hit targets that no one else can even see, instead of like with talent, it's like an archery competition. There's the target out there. Who can do the best job of hitting the known thing? But evolution is expanding what is known by hitting what is unknown, so that it becomes obvious and available to others. So then we all grow in that way.
And what have you seen in recent years in terms of like the evolution of business and evolution of like marketing and with the internet? How do you think, where do you think that that's leading us? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's very interesting just thinking about a couple of things. So there's one thing in particular that I'll just bring up that I've seen recently that I'm like, whoa, okay, this is potentially a breakthrough, at least in the way that I see things. So one of the big challenges that I've seen a lot of is with consumption of the marketing materials that truly actually do help people make some shifts so that they're ready to make a better decision for themselves. So that whether it's in the form of like an online challenge, a launch, PDFs, et cetera, those sorts of things can contain the best possible information, but they're not consumed. And one of the things that I've seen recently is this person, Murray Gray. I don't know if you happen to know him, but
I do.
he's created the expiring mini course, which is basically a gamified version of replacing, for example, it could replace like a set of challenge videos because it's gamified to encourage the actual consumption of it if you want to keep those materials. And so it actually helps people stay focused and be rewarded for actually learning along the process instead of like I was talking with somebody recently. She had 1,200 signups for her challenge. She had 88 people actually participating, and it's just a bit disheartening to see all of this expertise that's put together that can help people get some dramatic shifts for quote unquote free, but it is an investment of their time and their attention and their energy. And so just being able to immerse people into something that actually serves them, helps them get smarter, make better decisions, to me is like one of the big frontiers that I see right now.
Yeah, it's the conversion stats can be disheartening for sure. And one thing I know that you shared with me recently is that you are pretty good with scooping up that back end revenue from people that say no to an offer. And I think that's such an important thing because we think like, okay, I had 1,200 people and 88 bought. And so that means 11,000 or 1,112 people, if I did the math correctly, didn't buy. How do you address that? Like, how do you look at someone that said no and see if there's a yes there that you can get for your clients?
Okay, so here's like a piece I think here that is a hidden assumption is that we assume no response means no, when usually people have become either distracted by some other shiny object because we have so much competition for our attention. We're used to letting deadlines pass because we feel some relief of like, okay, at least I don't have to decide. And so then what the big thing that we do with some of the one-to-one follow-up is to help people get to a congruent decision. And hey, if your decision is no, great, but it feels great as humans to get to a decision so that this just continual energy leaks of possible regrets, wondering, oh, should I have done that? Should I not have done that? Sort of thing, when really this leaking of attention because we haven't closed the loops and actually made decisions, to me is just a disservice to people. And so part of this follow-up is to just find out, like, there's some no's in there that for sure we run into when we get people to make the right decision for themselves. But there are often a lot of hidden yeses on people who maybe had a question, maybe got distracted, haven't been thinking about it, that sort of thing. And so going through and having some follow-up systems that are one-on-one to address those things is one of the things that I've been doing a lot of.
I know, Jim, we've been friends on Facebook for a long time. It's kind of funny how you can kind of collect people on Facebook through the, and I have a lot of people in the internet marketing community. But you seem like a really deep conscious thinker, somebody who's reading a lot. And I always love some of the quotes that you post. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to just maybe mention a few of them, because I think they're all like talking points of how we approach the market. And you have a quote here that says, note for Jim, for your soul to fulfill its mission on earth and a human body, it needs a strong, healthy ego. And I really like this because one of my mentors was like, he was in the spiritual field, but he was like, everybody wants to dump the ego and think that it's the bad thing and annihilate it. But his perspective was, our journey here is actually to build a really strong ego, but an ego that's kind of disconnected from your soul. Now that's a problem, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Maybe could you share a little bit about this idea of having a strong ego and how that can help you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, that the perspective, especially, I remember when I wrote that, I was just, I've seen so many things that are just about killing, getting rid of the ego, that sort of thing, or the ego is the enemy. And I'm just like, I don't feel that is true. So there's this quote that I had at one time. It is something, and so that is a derivative of this, of let's see. So yeah, so your mission is bigger than your mind can comprehend and requires action smaller than your ego will allow. And so this dynamic of like, okay, the vision can't fit in a brain, but it requires these smaller actions, smaller than in my version now, smaller than an unhealthy ego will allow. And so this making a difference in the world is always going to require action. And if we have this massive vision, so many of the actions are smaller than what we think we should be doing. Like sometimes it's just sending an email to reach out to a specific person and like, what, can't people see what I'm up to here? I'm doing some great things. It just this being able to take appropriate action to move our mission forward. Like it's easy to see the big things and not address the small ones.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I feel like for me, those little small tasks actually, I love doing them, but I could see how some people would feel like, no, I just want to do the bigger picture. I just want to do the vision. That's an interesting point. I had never really considered that before. You're talking about the role of the ego and how the ego can kind of support us or not support us. And I've done a lot of studying with the Sufi masters. And one of the things that they say is that the ego should be a servant of the heart. So when you're speaking about the ego, that's what comes up for me. What do you think about a statement like that?
Oh yeah, I love it. Because yeah, an ego that violates the heart, I would say, okay, that doesn't sound very healthy to me. So and no matter how quote unquote forceful it might be, which I think this is part of where the ego gets a bad rap, of a disconnected from the heart ego that's operating in a forceful manner is what people often call the ego. And to me, that's a version of ego.
Yeah, I was just going to pull another quote from here because it's interesting because you do these little short snippets and then it takes you deep into inquiry and then it matches to your business. And you have one that says here, it says, we dream about things we're interested in and then we create things we're committed to. I really love this concept of commitment. Can you share a little bit about how people can take greater commitment in their life and what that means energetically?
Yeah, for me, the way I think about it, it ties back into this this thing that we see in the marble, using that as a metaphor. Like we see that first of the seeing something that is, in a lot of cases, like it's undeniable, but yet can't be confirmed outside very easily. Like I can't go to somebody and say, like, oh, just going to Michelangelo, just to make it easy, he couldn't go to anybody and say, this is the exact David that I see in there. Do you see the David that is in this piece of stone? Because nobody else could see or sense what was in there that he did. And an interesting point, just for a sidetrack for a minute, is that he was the third person commissioned to actually carve the David from that piece of stone. And so the first person just started with the stand, and then something happened. He abandoned the project. The second person that was commissioned, he was going to start working on it, but there was something he didn't like, so he left. And so Michelangelo actually had to plea to get the commission because he could see something in the stone. And so this piece of being able to commit to something that only we can see, where I think there's a connection between being interested in what other people are seeing or saying, that those sorts of things, but commitment has some internal connection to heart, to soul, to some thing that only we can see. And to me, then that's where we start crafting something that that then becomes something that matters to us, that is like it's displaying something in the world. Back to that thought of like the offerings to God are commitments. The okay, do this thing to get paid, I don't know, that there could be a version of commitment there, but it doesn't resonate the same way for me. Hopefully that wasn't too circular and made some sense.
No, it makes sense. I'm curious how you help your clients find that David, because I feel like with conscious creators, which is what we tend to call our audience, they know what they want to do. They're super passionate about it, but they look at what other people are doing and they feel like they kind of have to put themselves in that same box. And I think there's a lot of mindset work that needs to be done around that. So how do you help people when they come to you and you can see their David and they can't see it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody that I've worked with, that has been a great experience for both of us. It started with a conversation where I could talk about their work in a way that resonated for them, that landed for them, but that was different than what they were saying. And so it's always come about from them feeling that I'm seeing and describing something that they knew was there, but it's validated by just the way that I express it, of like, yes, you see it, you see this thing where so and I don't know exactly what it is. It's just to kind of explain maybe a weird part of my process is that as I'm talking with people, like I have this screen in my mind where the words are often being projected as people are talking, and then they're actually highlighted like with a yellow highlighter, that things are just jump out to me, and it's this weird internal experience that happens. And every time that I follow those trails of the words that were highlighted and go deeper, something miraculous reveals itself.
Yeah, I love that, how it's almost like you hear the frequency and then you follow the frequency of what's being shown to you. It's like a rabbit trail. I think it's also kind of true that sometimes the client is almost, the vision's so big that they're afraid to share it because nobody will believe in them. So they've kind of kept it in. So I think probably that's one of the jobs of a mentor, and probably what you do really well, is just to have the belief that it's even possible and help them to take steps to get there. Can you maybe share a little bit about one of the clients you've worked with and how you've helped them to, to get some results in their business?
Mhm. Yeah. So yeah, one person in particular that I worked with, that she had so this was kind of funny, that she calls me on a Tuesday, and I hadn't worked with her prior to this. She was a referral from somebody else. Calls me on a Tuesday. She got my phone number from the other person, says, okay, I have a webinar on Friday and it's not written yet. Can you help? And so this was at that time it was in the middle of a launch, and so she had some things going on already educating people, giving away her PLC content. If people are familiar with Jeff Walker's launch formula, kind of how he refers to content. And so what I did was I took the content that she had, and basically my best way of describing it is that it felt like I tuned into and channeled the version of her webinar that her people needed to hear based on everything that she shared up to that point. And then that was actually selling a live event plus an online program kind of combined. And so it was just a very interesting experience, because I wasn't myself as I was writing and creating that. I was like literally tapped into her energy and her flow. And when I read some of it back to her, like we were both in tears about what came forth, just because I didn't have her concerns, her biases, her protections, her possible just different background of things that she was avoiding or afraid of. And it was one of those that because of the volume of people that she had in her launch, like overall it contributed to a $250,000 launch. And she actually used it the next few times that she launched. And so that was like just one of the most just magical in a way of the experience, plus then the results. And I just one of the big things was I pulled out some key distinctions of who she was helping people to become versus the information that she was teaching. And so it was intended to appeal to and help people become this version of leader that they wanted to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I love webinar success stories too, because it can be hard to kind of get that down. And when you can get it down, it's just like you can just rinse and repeat every single time. And that's what I did. And I remember my biggest webinar fail when I did my very first webinar after working for people in the industry for about 3 years. I did my first webinar and I did it about storytelling and story launches and story funnels, but I didn't tell any stories. And so nobody bought from me. And then I was able to do a couple more webinars, the same webinar, but I fixed it. I tweaked it a bit. And then I ended up with 40 people in my first program, which was nice. It was a $997 program. So for me, that was, even though I'd been working on multi-million-dollar launches over and over again, it's because my clients had huge audiences and I didn't. So it was definitely a big, huge fail, probably my worst fail that ever happened for me. And especially because my friend Mike Hill, who has a group on Facebook, one of the oldest Facebook groups for internet marketing, he promoted me in that group. And so all his followers were on my webinar, and then I totally messed it up. And Mike was actually the one to tell me what I did wrong and kind of steer me in the right direction. He didn't get upset about it, but he was like, Kylie, what the hell is that? So I'm curious, when people fail, or what are some of the biggest failures that you've seen sort of in this way of doing conscious marketing, in this way of bringing your David out into the world? What are some of the common sort of traps you see people fall into?
It's challenging witness this and see this thing that happened. That this is somebody who has created 100 blog posts, 200 podcast episodes, and she still doesn't have an offer created. And so this thing so often that, like, this is a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of expertise, but it's without that invitation into a next step and being very clear on what the invitation is for the next step, who it's for, how it helps them, what pain it relieves, what new things emerge for them as a result of that. Like, the content just, it goes all over the place. And so it can be great content as far as informational, but it really doesn't help people move beyond just that surface understanding that they would get from either reading a book or that sort of thing. And so just this intentionality of an offer that is really designed to help people change their reality, emerge or continue their process of emergence into more and more congruent and aligned and greater versions of themselves by their own definitions, instead of just this thing of, once again, back to one of the ways I view it is that GPS versus the fact that we need qualified drivers who can drive there. And so that requires different agreements than just agreeing that our instructions are good. It's like, okay, how do we get people actually into driving whatever that vehicle is forward?
Yeah, it's like, that's so important to get the offers out. And we see that happen too, where people will do everything but launch their offer. So we always try to activate people so that they're moving toward putting small offers out. And sometimes it's the fear of rejection and the fear of sales or something like that. But we just try to help people to see that they've got this medicine and that it's kind of their role to, if they have some way that they can help people to, like, start to work with people, yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience, Unconscious Marketer, Jim, before we close here?
Yes. So there's one thing that I've really been kind of wrestling with over the past couple of weeks in particular. And so I wrote this phrase down of, be intentional about what business you build, because the business is building a new version of you. And so if we build a business based on some scarcity beliefs, that it's only about making money, that it requires us to do a bunch of things that are not internally aligned, we're creating a version of ourselves, because in that case, the business also has a hammer and chisel, and it's carving a new version of us. Like, it's impossible to be engaged in a business without becoming some different version of ourselves. And so really that coming from that place of knowing that it's going to, whatever business we design is going to redesign us. And so how do we make that happy marriage that is challenging, inspiring, sometimes frustrating, yet brings out that version of ourselves that we know is within us?
I love that inquiry, kind of, how do we build a business that builds us or rebuilds us, or how do we create something that is an activator for our own consciousness and spiritual unfoldment? Jim, it's been amazing speaking with you here today. Some really deep insights, and you can follow Jim on LinkedIn, Facebook. If people want to find more about how to work with you, how should they reach out?
That probably the easiest one is to find me on Facebook and message that way. And yeah, if something sounds worthy of having a conversation, like I'm more interested in having fascinating conversations than jumping straight into should we work together. Like I like to have fun conversations and then just see like if there is a spark, if there is magic, because yeah, I would rather do that than promise a bunch of things and hope people will agree with my promises. I would rather have some conversations and find out if there's magic to be unleashed there.
Love that.
Yeah, I love that too. It's about finding aligned magic and finding the right people that you're meant to work with. So thanks so much for taking the time to be on the Conscious Marketer podcast. And we'll post all of Jim's links on our site. You go to consciousmarketer.com/podcast and you can get the show there and the show notes if you're listening on Apple and Spotify. Thanks all the listeners for being loyal to us. And if you can, leave a review. Also head on over to Jim's site and check his work out as well. Thank you again, Jim, for being on the show today.
All right. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, it's fun and fascinating to talk and hear different perspectives on some of these things. So thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim.